Every nightmare must come to an end, but some endings are darker than the nightmares themselves. Tonight, the final battle begins as Emma and Adam face the source of Westbrook High's power. But as they uncover the ultimate truth, they'll realize that some lessons come at the highest price. Welcome back to Nightmare for Giggles, where the darkest nightmares are about to reach their terrifying conclusion. I am the Tales Keeper, and tonight, we dive into the final chapter of Horror Highschool Nightmare Stories. Emma and Adam have survived the collapse of Westbrook High, but the darkness that has haunted the school for generations is far from gone. As they prepare to face the final lesson, they'll uncover the true source of the school's power and the ultimate cost of defeating it. So put on your headphones, close your eyes, and prepare for the final chapter of a nightmare that will haunt you long after the last lesson is learned. The destruction of Westbrook High should have brought an end to the nightmare. The school had collapsed, its walls crumbling to dust, and the final bell had rung, signaling the end of the twisted, nightmarish grip it had held over Emma and Adam. But as they lay on the cold grass outside the ruins of the building, their bodies aching from exhaustion, Emma knew deep down that it wasn't over. The air was still heavy with the lingering sense of dread, the same oppressive atmosphere that had haunted them throughout their journey. Even though the school was gone, the dark energy that had filled it seemed to persist, clinging to the very ground where the building once stood. Emma pushed herself up onto her elbows, her breath coming in ragged gasps as she surveyed the ruins. The school was nothing more than a pile of rubble now, its once grand facade reduced to broken stones and twisted metal. But even in its destruction, there was something wrong, something that didn't make sense. "Adam," she gasped, her voice hoarse. "It's not over." Adam groaned as he sat up beside her, wincing in pain as he looked out over the ruins. "What do you mean, the school's gone? We destroyed the clock. We broke the ritual?" Emma shook her head, her eyes scanning the rubble. "It doesn't feel right. I can still feel it. Something dark, something powerful. It's still here." Adam's expression darkened as he looked around. "What are you saying? That the school wasn't the source of the power? That it was something else?" Emma's heart pounded in her chest as the realization hit her. The school was just a vessel, a tool. The real source of the power, the thing that's been feeding on us, it's still out there. Adam's face paled as he took in her words. "Then where is it? What's been behind all of this?" Emma's gaze drifted toward the sky, where the moon hung low and heavy, casting an eerie glow over the landscape. She didn't know the answer, but she knew one thing for certain. The nightmare wasn't over. It was just beginning. "We need to go back," Emma said, her voice filled with determination. "We need to find the true source and stop it before it can spread." Adam looked at her in disbelief. "Back? To what? The school is gone." Emma stood up, her legs trembling beneath her, but her resolve was stronger than ever. Not back to the school, back to the heart of it all, back to where it really began. Adam hesitated for a moment, fear flickering in his eyes, but then he nodded, his expression hardening with resolve. "All right, let's finish this." The night air was cold as they made their way through the empty streets surrounding the ruins of Westbrook High. The town itself seemed abandoned, its streets deserted and its buildings shrouded in darkness. It was as if the collapse of the school had drained the life from the town, leaving it hollow and empty. Emma and Adam moved quickly, their footsteps echoing in the silence as they approached the outskirts of the town. Emma's mind raced as she tried to piece together the puzzle that had haunted them for so long. The ritual, the spirits, the clock. It all pointed to something bigger, something more ancient and malevolent than they had ever imagined. The principal was just a pawn, Emma murmured, more to herself than to Adam. He thought he was in control, but he was just another victim, like the rest of them. Adam glanced at her, his brow furrowed in confusion. "What do you mean?" "The ritual," Emma explained, her voice tense. "It wasn't about controlling the spirits or feeding off the fear of the students. It was about keeping something contained, something that was already here, long before the school was built." Adam's eyes widened in realization. You're saying the school was built on top of something? Something evil? Emma nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. And now that the school is gone, whatever was contained beneath it is free. As they reached the edge of town, Emma felt a familiar pull, a tug deep in her gut that guided her toward a small wooded area at the base of a hill. It was a place she had seen before, though only in dreams and nightmares, a place that had always felt like the source of the darkness that had plagued Westbrook. There, she whispered, pointing toward the trees. That's where it is. Adam followed her gaze, his expression grim. Are you sure? Emma nodded, her throat dry as she took a step forward. I can feel it. Together they entered the woods, the trees closing in around them like a dark, suffocating embrace. The ground beneath their feet was uneven and covered in thick, twisted roots that seemed to pulse with dark energy. The air grew colder with each step, and the oppressive atmosphere that had followed them from the ruins of the school pressed down on them with increasing intensity. Emma's breath came in short, shallow gasps as they made their way deeper into the woods. The trees seemed to warp and twist around them, their branches reaching out like skeletal hands, clawing at their skin and clothes. The deeper they went, the more the landscape seemed to shift, distorting into something nightmarish and unreal. It's getting stronger, Adam whispered, his voice filled with fear. Emma nodded, her heart racing as she pushed forward. The pull was stronger now, tugging her toward a clearing just ahead. As they stepped into the clearing, they were met with a sight that made Emma's blood run cold. In the center of the clearing stood an ancient, weathered stone altar, its surface covered in strange, glowing symbols. The ground around it was scorched and blackened, the air thick with the scent of burning wood and decay. The symbols on the altar pulsed with dark energy, filling the air with an overwhelming sense of dread. This is it, Emma whispered, her voice trembling. This is where it all started. Adam's eyes widened in horror as he took in the scene. This is where they performed the ritual. But why here? Emma swallowed hard, her mind racing as the pieces of the puzzle finally fell into place. This is where the real power lies. The school was just a cover, a way to keep people away from this place. The principal and his followers didn't realize what they were dealing with. They thought they could control it, but they were wrong. Adam's voice was barely audible as he spoke. What is it? What's been controlling everything? Emma's heart pounded in her chest as she stepped closer to the altar, her eyes locked on the pulsing symbols. It's not a what. It's a who. Before Adam could respond, the ground beneath them trembled, and the air around the altar crackled with dark energy. The symbols on the stone flared with a blinding light, and a deep, resonant voice echoed through the clearing. You've come at last, the voice said, its tone filled with cold amusement. I've been waiting for you. Emma froze, her heart racing as she looked around, searching for the source of the voice. But there was no one there, only the altar, glowing with dark, malevolent energy. Who are you? Emma demanded, her voice shaking with fear. The voice chuckled, the sound sending shivers down her spine. I am the one who has been watching you, guiding you, the one who has been here since the beginning, long before your precious school was built. I am the true power behind it all. Emma's mind raced as she tried to make sense of what was happening. The voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once, filling the air with a sense of overwhelming dread. You're the one who's been controlling the school, Emma said, her voice filled with realization. You're the one who trapped the spirits, the one who fed on the fear and pain of the students. The voice laughed again, the sound echoing through the clearing. Clever girl. Yes, I am the one who created the nightmare that you've been living. The school, the ritual, the spirits, they were all part of my plan. And now you've come to me, just as I knew you would. Emma's blood ran cold as she realized the truth. The voice wasn't just some malevolent spirit. It was the source of everything, the ancient evil that had been feeding off the fear and pain of Westbrook's students for generations. What do you want? Adam demanded, his voice trembling with fear. The voice chuckled again, its tone filled with malice. I want what I've always wanted, to grow stronger, to feed on the fear and despair of those foolish enough to cross my path. And now that the school is gone, I am free to spread my influence even further. Emma's heart pounded in her chest as she realized what they were up against. This wasn't just about Westbrook High. This was about something much bigger, something that could spread beyond the town, beyond the school, and consume everything in its path. "We're not going to let that happen," Emma said, her voice filled with determination. The voice laughed again, the sound filled with cold amusement. "You think you can stop me? You're nothing but children, playing with forces you don't understand." Emma's hands clenched into fists as she stepped forward, her eyes locked on the glowing symbols of the altar. "We've stopped you before. We destroyed the clock. We broke the ritual. We can stop you again." The ground trembled beneath them as the voice's tone shifted, growing darker, more dangerous. "You may have destroyed my tools, but you cannot destroy me. I am eternal. I have existed long before you were born, and I will exist long after you are gone." Emma's heart pounded in her chest as the realization hit her. The voice was right. They couldn't destroy it, not in the way they had destroyed the clock or the ritual. This was something far older, far more powerful than anything they had ever faced. But they couldn't give up. Not now. "We may not be able to destroy you," Emma said, her voice steady despite the fear gnawing at her insides. "But we can contain you, just like the principal did all those years ago." The voice hissed with anger, the air around them crackling with dark energy. "You dare to defy me?" Emma nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. "We're going to stop you. We're going to make sure you can never hurt anyone again." With a deep breath, Emma stepped forward, her eyes locked on the altar. The symbols pulsed with dark energy, the air around them thick with the malevolent presence of the voice. But Emma didn't waver. "Adam, help me," she said, her voice filled with determination. Adam nodded, his face pale but resolute as he stepped forward to stand beside her. Together they reached for the altar, their hands trembling as they touched its cold, weathered surface. The voice roared with fury as they began to recite the incantation, the same words that had been used to contain the dark force all those years ago. The air crackled with energy, the ground trembling beneath them as the power of the voice fought back, trying to break free. But Emma and Adam held on, their voices steady as they continued the incantation. The symbols on the altar flared with blinding light, the dark energy recoiling as the power of the incantation took hold. The voice screamed with rage, its presence growing weaker, more distant, as the incantation neared its end. The ground shook violently, the trees around them swaying as the dark force was pulled back into the altar, contained once again. And then, with a final deafening roar, the light from the altar exploded outward, filling the clearing with a blinding white light. For a moment, there was nothing but silence. And then, slowly, the light began to fade, and Emma and Adam found themselves standing in the clearing once more, the air still and calm. The altar was dark now, the symbols no longer glowing. The voice was gone, its presence banished back into the depths of the earth. Emma collapsed to her knees, gasping for breath as the weight of what they had just done washed over her. Adam knelt beside her, his face pale with exhaustion but filled with relief. "Is it over?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Emma nodded, though her body trembled with exhaustion. "It's over. We contained it." As they looked around the clearing, the oppressive atmosphere that had clung to the woods was gone. The darkness that had haunted them for so long had been banished, and the air was finally clear. But even as relief washed over them, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that they had only delayed the inevitable. The voice had been contained, but it wasn't destroyed. It would always be there, lurking beneath the surface, waiting for the next opportunity to break free. "We did it," Adam said, his voice filled with disbelief. "We actually did it." Emma nodded, though her heart was heavy with the knowledge of what they had just faced. "For now. But we can't let our guard down. It's still out there waiting." Adam's expression darkened as he took in her words. "What do we do now?" Emma looked out over the clearing, the ruins of Westbrook High visible in the distance. "We keep watch. We make sure it never gets free again." Together they stood, their bodies aching but filled with a sense of accomplishment. They had faced the darkness and survived, but the battle was far from over. As they walked away from the clearing, the moon shining down on them, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that they had only just begun to uncover the true depths of the nightmare that had haunted Westbrook for so long. And as they disappeared into the night, the faint sound of a bell echoed through the woods, a reminder that some nightmares never truly end. You've just survived the final lesson with me, the Tales Keeper, here on Nightmare for Giggles. But remember, some battles are never truly won, and some nightmares never end. Emma and Adam have contained the darkness, but the evil that haunted Westbrook High is still out there, waiting for the right moment to strike again. If you've enjoyed this terrifying journey through Horror Highschool Nightmare Stories, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you'll never miss another chilling tale. And until next time, beware the places where darkness still lurks. Because in the end, the final lesson is that some nightmares never truly fade.